Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. In Fort Collins, Colorado, residents recently reported seeing what they called demon rabbits. These animals had strange, black horn-like growths, sparking wild speculation online. The truth, confirmed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, was a rabbit-specific virus called Shope papillomavirus, which causes these unsettling tumors. While the growths look like something from mythology, they aren't a threat to humans. But this strange event brings up a much bigger, more terrifying story. The real demonic nature of rabbits isn't about a virus, it's about the European rabbit, one of the most destructive invasive species on the entire planet. For centuries, this seemingly cute creature has unleashed ecological havoc, reshaping landscapes, wiping out native species and costing nations billions. This is the story of how the symbol of springtime became a genuine demon in the wild. The European rabbit, originally from the Iberian Peninsula and southwestern France, is a master colonizer. It reproduces incredibly fast, adapts to almost any environment, and lives in social groups, all of which has allowed it to conquer every continent except Antarctica. In its native home, it's a vital keystone species. But everywhere else, it's been a catastrophe. The most infamous example is Australia. In 1859, a mere 24 rabbits were introduced for sport hunting. This single act triggered a biological invasion of biblical proportions. With a mild climate, plenty of food, and no natural predators to keep them in check, the rabbit population exploded. They spread across the continent at a breathtaking rate. At their peak, it's estimated that Australia was home to over 600 million rabbits. The ecological fallout has been staggering. Rabbits are currently a key threat to 322 of Australia's at-risk plant and animal species. That's more than double the number threatened by feral cats or foxes. Their grazing is relentless and selective. They strip the landscape of native vegetation, preventing the regeneration of trees and shrubs. In dry regions, even a small number of rabbits can be enough to devour every single seedling of certain plant species, causing entire plant communities to vanish and fundamentally altering the habitat forever. This mass removal of plant life has a domino effect. Without plant cover, the soil is left exposed to wind and water, leading to massive erosion, loss of fertility, and the degradation of huge areas of land. The rabbits' extensive burrowing, which creates vast underground networks called warrens, further destabilizes the soil structure. Native Australian animals have also suffered immensely. Rabbits compete directly with native herbivores like the southern hairy-nosed wombat and the greater bilby for food and shelter, pushing their populations into decline. And in a cruel twist, the booming rabbit population provides an abundant food source for introduced predators like feral cats and foxes. This inflates the predator populations, which then go on to prey even more heavily on Australia's other vulnerable native animals. The economic cost of this invasion has been just as devastating. The agricultural industry has been hit hardest, with rabbits decimating crops and competing with livestock for pasture. In the early 20th century, massive rabbit plagues were a common and terrifying feature of the Australian outback, and many areas have still not fully recovered. Today, the total cost of the rabbit problem to the Australian economy, including agricultural losses and control measures, is estimated to be over 200 million Australian dollars every single year. New Zealand's story is depressingly similar. Rabbits were introduced there in the 1830s for food and sport, and their population quickly spiraled out of control. By the 1870s, they were officially recognized as a major pest. Like in Australia, rabbits have stripped entire hillsides of vegetation, leading to widespread soil erosion. They compete so effectively with sheep for pasture that it's estimated a dozen rabbits eat as much as one sheep. This competition has caused huge economic losses for farmers, even forcing some high-country sheep stations to be abandoned entirely. In the 1990s, the annual cost of rabbit damage and control in New Zealand was estimated to be between 22 and 50 million New Zealand dollars. island ecosystems are especially vulnerable. These isolated worlds often have unique plants and animals that evolved without major threats, making them tragically naive to invaders. The introduction of rabbits to islands across the globe has been a story of shattered worlds. Take the sub-Antarctic Macquarie Island. Rabbits introduced in the 1870s caused severe environmental damage. Their grazing transformed vast fields of tall tussock grassland into barren herb fields, destroying the critical breeding habitats for burrowing seabirds. The loss of vegetation also triggered soil erosion and landslides. In one tragic event, a landslide killed hundreds of king penguins. A study of lake sediments on the island revealed that after rabbits were introduced, sediment accumulation rates, a direct measure of erosion, increased by over 100 times. The story repeats itself elsewhere. On the Cyclades Islands in the Mediterranean, endemic plants that evolved without defenses against grazers have been decimated. On Laysan Island in the Hawaiian archipelago, introduced rabbits are blamed for the extinction of 26 native plant species between 1903 and 1923. From the Kerguelen Islands in the Indian Ocean to islands in the Pacific, the pattern is the same. Introduce rabbits, and you get a catastrophic decline in native biodiversity and a degraded ecosystem. Given this immense ecological and economic damage, it's no surprise that humans have waged a century-long war on rabbits, using everything from traditional methods to biological warfare. For decades, the primary methods of control were physical and chemical. Trapping and shooting can work on a small scale, but they are incredibly labor-intensive and barely make a dent in large-scale populations. A more aggressive approach is warren ripping, where heavy machinery is used to destroy the rabbits' underground homes, or fumigating the warrens with poison gas. The use of poisons like sodium fluoroacetate, known as 1080, has also been common. But these poisons are controversial because they can pose a significant risk to non-target species, including native animals and even domestic pets. In a truly monumental effort, Australia famously built a rabbit-proof fence that stretched over 200 kilometers across Western Australia to try and contain their spread. While it did slow the rabbits' advance, it was ultimately not a complete solution. The constant need for costly, labor-intensive work led scientists to search for a more effective, widespread solution. This led them to biological control agents, a controversial but undeniably powerful chapter in the war on rabbits. The first biological weapon deployed was myxomatosis. It's a disease caused by the myxoma virus, which is relatively harmless in its natural host, the South American cottontail rabbit. But in European rabbits, it's a horrific and usually fatal disease, causing severe skin tumors. In 1950, after years of research, the myxoma virus was deliberately released in Australia. The result was nothing short of astonishing. The rabbit population was reduced by an estimated 99.8%. It was a massive victory. Native vegetation began to recover, and agricultural production boomed. But nature always adapts. As scientists predicted, the virus eventually evolved to become less deadly, and simultaneously, the rabbits evolved genetic resistance to the disease. While myxomatosis still helps control rabbit numbers today, its effectiveness has waned significantly since those early years. Its use also sparked ethical debates over the deliberate release of a disease that causes such immense suffering in animals. In the 1980s, a new disease emerged in China. It was called rabbit hemorrhagic disease, or RHD, and it was caused by a calicivirus. This disease is incredibly lethal, causing internal hemorrhaging and killing rabbits very quickly, often with few external symptoms. In 1995, during field trials of RHDV on Wardang Island, off the coast of Australia, the virus escaped to the mainland. It spread like wildfire, causing another massive reduction in the Australian rabbit population. 2 years later, in 1997, the virus was illegally introduced into New Zealand by farmers desperate for a solution. Like with myxomatosis, the virus has continued to evolve, A new strain, RHDV2, appeared in France in 2010 and has since spread globally. This new variant is even more problematic because it can kill young rabbits, who were largely immune to the original strain. The story of the European rabbit is complicated by a fascinating conservation paradox. While it's a devastating pest across much of the world, in its native home on the Iberian Peninsula, the rabbit is now an endangered species. A combination of habitat loss, overhunting, and the very same diseases used to control them elsewhere, myxomatosis and RHDV, has caused their populations to crash. This has created a new ecological crisis in Spain and Portugal. The rabbit is a keystone species there, meaning other animals depend on it for survival. The critically endangered Iberian lynx and the Spanish imperial eagle, for instance, rely heavily on rabbits as their primary food source. This creates a difficult challenge for conservationists, who find themselves trying to eradicate rabbits in one part of the world while desperately trying to save them in another. Despite the centuries of damage, there is hope. The eradication of rabbits from islands has led to some truly remarkable ecosystem recoveries. A decade after rabbits, rats, and mice were successfully eradicated from Macquarie Island, the landscape is transforming. Tussock grasses that were grazed down to nothing are now towering over people's heads. The slopes are stabilizing, providing safe nesting grounds for seabirds once more. Similar stories of recovery are happening on other islands where rabbits have been removed, with native plants and insects bouncing back. These successes show that with dedicated, well-planned efforts, we can begin to heal the scars left by these invasive animals. The fight is far from over, but it proves that recovery is possible. The story of the demon rabbits, from the viral growths in Colorado to the ecological devastation in Australia, is a powerful cautionary tale. It shows that the true demon isn't a creature from folklore. It's the profound and unforeseen chaos that can be unleashed when a single species is introduced into an environment not prepared for it. The ongoing global battle to control this one animal is a stark reminder of the immense challenge we face in managing the fragile balance of our planet's ecosystems.